Hello everyone and welcome back to The Dancer's Edge. My name is Janelle Warren Conowal, your host, and I'm super excited to jump back in. We did miss last week because we've just been so busy with show prep, so actually our episode that was meant to be for last week is going to go up this week, but hopefully you'll find it super helpful. It's all about having a successful show the day of for both parents and dancers. So in the beginning of the show, we get into tips for parents, and then a little bit later on, we get into tips for you dancers out there to have a really, really great show. So without any further ado, make sure you subscribe, leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you're listening to this, and let us know what you think. And here we go with the episode. Okay, so for any of my parents listening in, you might be a seasoned dance parent or maybe you're new to the game. Hopefully this will help you out no matter what. This is day of kind of stuff we're talking here, and it's a little bit day before. The first thing that I wanted to touch on is the vibe of the day, I guess you could call it. So we want your dancer to be as calm and collected as possible. So this calm often starts with you, the parent. Kids pick up on feelings really, really well. And if you're anxious or nervous about their performance, then they might start to feel that and start to feel like extra nervous too. So really do your best to project a mood of like calm and excitement of too, of course, but just so that we're not creating any additional stress. Next up, what to pack. For my older dancers, I do recommend that they pack the costumes and things themselves, and that way they can really start to become responsible for it. I also recommend just double checking once they've packed everything, if this is their first few times packing, because the day of, things happen really, really quickly and you don't want to have to be running home to get something, which I know has happened to me. So try to avoid that by double and triple checking everything. For parents of younger dancers, definitely, great to have them involved in packing their costumes, so it's not all on you and they're taking some of the responsibility, and just so that they know what goes into it and can be responsible for their things when they're at the show. So you want to make sure you pack their costumes and any accessories. I recommend putting things in a Ziploc bag and labeling it with the dance, especially if they're in multiple dances, or if you have garment bags, that works really well too. You also want to bring things like a hairbrush, bobby pins, safety pins, wipes. Never hurts to throw in some clear nail polish. That helps to stop runs in tights. Bring your extra tights, bring your hairspray or gel, whatever you're using, extra hair nuts. Doesn't hurt to throw in some Band-Aids, something for fun, like a book to read or some coloring if they're younger, not markers, just like colored pencils or crayons. Homework, if they have homework to work on. Definitely bringing healthy snacks, like neat kind of snacks, nothing that's going to be messy. So make sure you bring lots of water as well. Those are all really great items to make sure that you have with you. Make sure that you label everything with your child's name. There's going to be a lot of dancers backstage and a lot of costumes, and a lot of times there's very similar costumes and similar shoes, similar if you have a like your studio jacket or sweater or something like that. So just make sure that you label everything with your child's name in a spot that you're not going to see it from stage. If you have any questions about anything, definitely make sure that you ask your director or the admin people that are working or backstage helpers, so you know exactly what's going on. I'm sure everyone is super happy to help you, and I know I always want my parents to know what's going on, because the more that they know, then the smoother everything runs. If you have any questions about show day, just go right ahead and ask them. You also want to make sure that you are taking your child to the rehearsal. Sometimes it's a dress rehearsal. Sometimes it's the day before the show or a couple days before the show. Sometimes it's the day of the show. Making sure that you're taking your child to the rehearsal, because that is their time to get familiar with the stage, what the lights are going to be like, what the setup is going to be like, and gives them a chance to run through their dance on stage and helps them just be more familiar and confident and comfortable on the stage. Make sure that you're on time the day of the show. Oftentimes things are running on a tight schedule on rehearsal days or show days. So make sure you're on time, because oftentimes dances will not be repeated to accommodate late arriving dancers. So make sure that you arrive on time. I just want to take a moment and give a shout out to our backstage helpers. These are parents and students that volunteer to work backstage during the show. You guys are angels. The show could not run without you, and the rehearsal and the show just runs so much smoother and faster with you. So just want to shout you guys out, and for any parents out there, it does help to explain to your dancer ahead of time how long the show can be and what the day is going to run like, and that they need to stay backstage with their helpers or teachers. For videotaping and cameras, some places will allow you to take pictures without flash, some places won't. Most places won't let you videotape, but you might be able to, so just make sure that you check in with that before doing either of those things. Also, we all love that the dancers have fan clubs, their family members and friends, but just make sure that those fan clubs, that you stay in the areas like the lobby and places like that to greet your dancer. The backstage area is often quite small, and the dressing rooms are restricted areas, and oftentimes the backstage is a restricted area. So just be respectful of that for the safety of all the dancers and for the sake of space. As for your responsibilities as an audience member, make sure you clap loudly. Make sure you clap for everyone and make sure you clap loudly. So be a good audience member, and if you're feeling it in your heart to yell out, like do a little scream for your dancer, I guess depending on what show you're at, that may or may not be appropriate. So just kind of get a feel for the vibe of the place, but definitely clap loudly, because that just creates such a great energy and gets the dancers so pumped up. And last thing for the parents, after the show, make sure you celebrate with your dancer. It's such a monumental thing to have put all the work in for the practicing and the time in doing the rehearsal, and then to have the confidence and the courage to step up on stage and perform in front of everybody doing something that they love and are learning is really incredible. So make sure you really celebrate. Just letting your dancer know how much you love watching them dance is such a great, encouraging thing for your dancer. All right, moving on to my dancers out there. Here are your tips. Get your dance notebooks out, because you got some great points you're going to want to make sure you have for show day. So one idea that I really like is to use a Ziploc bag to hold any accessories like hair pieces or gloves for every dance that you're in. If you have multiple dances, like let's say you have 4 dances, then use 4 different bags, and you can even write on each bag to list everything that goes into that bag and what dance it's for. This will help serve as a checklist before you leave home and when you're packing up everything after the performance. Make sure before you leave that you triple check that you have everything that you need for your hair, your makeup, your costume. Make sure that you triple check that you have everything for your costumes, your shoes, your tights, that you have everything that you need for hair and makeup. And also make sure that your shoes and tights are clean. I also recommend to bring some homework that you might be working on, a book to read, if you want to bring like a deck of cards to play with everyone, that's pretty fun. Make sure you take off any nail polish or bracelets. There's those like great little friendship bracelets, but unfortunately they're just not meant to wear on stage. Also, before you go on stage, make sure that you check your wrist for hair elastics. That's a big one for sure. And if you're going on stage for ballet, make sure that your strings are tucked in. And if you have laces, make sure your shoes are tied tight. Oh, a super fun one that I like is to create, maybe I'll save that one for the last. The last tip is one of my favorites, so and it's not have fun. That is also one of my favorites, but I have another dance tip that I think will make for a really great performance day. Okay, make sure you bring your respect for everyone. Respect the teachers, the parents, the dancers, the audience members, each other's belongings, the backstage helpers. If everyone is giving each other respect, everything is going to be a nice, pleasant experience for everyone. And going along with that, make sure that if there is a prop or a costume in somewhere, make sure that you just leave it there and don't move it around. So if the prop or costume is not yours, don't touch it. And that way, whoever is looking for it will be able to find it easily. Okay, also make sure you stay in your designated area. So I know it can be a little frustrating to be restricted about where you can go, especially if it's, especially if you're an older dancer and you're like really familiar with the area, maybe you've danced there before. But it's really, really important to stay where you're supposed to be throughout the show, because there's so much going on and all of the teachers and backstage helpers have lots of people to organize. So if you go somewhere that you're not supposed to be, you do run the risk of missing your cue. I definitely highly recommend keeping on top of your own stuff in a few different senses. One, knowing what routines are coming up, so what costumes you need to have prepared and when, what order they go in, keeping track of what dance they're on, knowing what hair and makeup changes need to be made, and knowing what side of the stage you need to be on. Also, as you are completing your dances, definitely recommend packing things up as you go and keeping things nice and neat and tidy. And that way, when it's time to leave at the end, you don't have to do this big, crazy pack up. Everything's already organized, so you can just kind of like put the last things in there and pack up and leave right away. Next thing, make sure when you are backstage that you are keeping quiet. So if you're in the wings or near the stage in any way, make sure that if you're talking very quietly, and that it's nice and calm backstage, and that it's nice and quiet backstage. Super important, make sure you're warmed up before you go on stage. So you may have a scheduled warm-up or a group warm-up with yourself and a teacher, or yourself and some of the other dancers, but just really important to make sure that you yourself are staying warm so that you're not hurting yourself when you do go up on stage. Make sure that you're aware of the sight lines if you're waiting backstage in the wings. So that's when the audience can see you, because there is light that bleeds out to the sides of the stage in the wings. And if you can see the audience, then that means that they can see you too. And you also just have to be aware of your whole body, not just your face and your eyes. So making sure that you're keeping your feet and your arms, your whole body out of the wings and out of the eyesight of the audience. Another big thing for my older dancers and my experienced dancers is if you see someone that needs some help, then, if you have the time and are able to, definitely help them out. If you're doing maybe a recital kind of show or a production, oftentimes there's very young dancers in those shows, and sometimes they just need some helpers and a friend. So reaching out and helping to build that community is super important and super helpful. Oftentimes during showtime, you also need to be flexible. Things happen really quickly once the show starts, and the show must go on. So you do need to be flexible. Different things can happen. And it's also really important to just, if the director or your teacher or whoever is in charge there asks you to do something, then you just got to do it. So if you're instructed to go somewhere or asked to quiet down or something like that, just make sure that you're really courteous and respectful towards that, and you do it, because like I said, there's a lot going on, and the smoother that the backstage runs, the smoother the show will go. Okay, and of course, the ever important, have fun. Dance is hard fun, but it is fun, and that's why we're all here and why we're all doing it. So make sure that you have a good time too, really give it your all when you go on stage. In my last episode, I talked a bit about the mindset before you go on stage, envisioning yourself being really confident in your movement, going out and doing it to the best of your ability. So have fun, and also prepare yourself mentally, I guess is what I'm getting at here. So envision yourself going on stage, giving it your all, doing everything the best you've ever done it, performing full out with a ton of energy, and just leave it all on the stage. You're going to feel so good if you go out there and you dance as hard as you can dance, as big as you can dance, as much energy as you can dance, and perform as much as possible. If you come off stage, and I know I've done this before, which is why I'm so passionate about this topic, I feel like, is when you get off the stage and you don't go full out, you just want to do it again right away, but you can't. And it's just such a bad feeling to get off stage and just know you could have done it better and want to be able to do it again. So to be able to get off the stage and be like, wow, I totally gave that my all. It just feels so good, and it feels so good. You'll get your endorphins going with all that energy. I guess that's why that ties into having fun for me, because to me that also is fun. I'm assuming for you too, because you're a dancer too. I think we're all a little bit crazy in that way, that's something that we love. And now my last tip for how to rock your show is to have a pre-performance ritual. I think this is so awesome, and it varies super greatly. I've heard of everything from people having to eat certain foods. Maybe you have to do a shakedown before each performance. I know for me, I have to go over the dance over and over and over again, kind of obsessively before I go on stage. It just really helps solidify it in my head and make me feel ready. So I pretty much practice leading right up to going on stage. And then right after I do that, I always love to have a chat with the people that I'm dancing with and just kind of huddle together. We all give each other a bit of a pep talk and get each other pumped up and get in the right zone and the right mindset and the right emotional space for that performance and for that dance. And then immediately before I go on stage, while I'm waiting in the wings, I like to just totally party, dance to whatever music is going on and just get pumped up. So maybe your ritual is you have to do 10 jumps, 10 sautés before you go on stage, or whatever your ritual is. It's really nice to have one that makes you feel grounded and in the right mindset, ready to just give her on stage. So there you have it. Make sure you follow me on Instagram.